Hello and welcome to Business Daily on Trust Television. We are set to begin your week by bringing you money matters that really matter in the world of business and also cut across different sectors of the Nigerian economy. We're also going to discuss the state of the Nigerian economy. I am your host, Christiana Amodu-Otinya. Thank you for joining in on the program today. First, we'll begin with the headlines. We'll begin from the telecommunications sector. Nigeria's telecom subscribers hit 240 million. Automotive sector, Africa cannot advance without electric vehicles, and that's from the Director General of the NADDC. We'll bring more on these developments in the Business Roundup segment of the program. We'll take a short breather. When we come back, it'll be time to go into the stock market. Please stay. Welcome back and thank you for still staying there with us. Now let's get straight into crunching the numbers and see what's the mood like. What are the bourses opening like for this week? Now we'll begin from the front of Custom Street, talking about the Nigeria Exchange in Lagos State. Now we saw the benchmark all share index hit the 48,000 mark to close the week positive for the Nigeria Exchange, up 1.04%, as you can see right there. So we are seeing some positive momentum for the Nigerian bourse, and the bulls are clearly dominating trade in the Nigeria Exchange on activity levels. A total volume of 159.83 million shares valued at 5.05 billion naira change hands in 3,080 deals on the floor of the local bourse. Now, the equity cap settled at 26.23 trillion naira. So we are seeing the market staying largely bullish for the Nigeria Exchange. Economic analysts and market watchers have also postulated that they expect the positive sentiment to also spill over into the new week. Let's go over now to other bourses in Africa. We'll begin from the JSE. Now, the JSE is opening positive 1.53% higher, 75,463. Now, interesting developments coming in for South Africa. Investors are monitoring developments around President Cyril Ramaphosa's future while assessing the consequences of his possible resignation from the country's economic outlook. Ramaphosa faces possible impeachment over the findings of a panel of experts into the theft of his falafala farm in Limpopo. So the tales of woes for South Africa doesn't seem to be wading off. And remember, issues around the power utility in South Africa has also been in the focus for some time now. For Ghana, we are seeing the GSC open marginally higher, 0.01% there, to settle at 2,464. For Ghana also, a historic program is set to begin in Ghana. Recall that Ghana asked holders of its international bond to accept losses of as much as 30% on the principal and forgoes some interest payments as it hammers out a debt sustainability plan to qualify for a loan from the International Monetary Fund. Now, the Minister of Finance for Ghana for Finance and Economic Planning, Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta, has revealed that the board control of the debt sustainability analysis has been concluded and details on Ghana's domestic debt exchange will be launched today. So these countries, that's South Africa and Ghana, there are a whole lot of issues coming forth in terms of the economic outlook for these nations. Recall that the cedi was adjudged the worst performing currency against the dollar. There's also the gold for oil program in Ghana. All this is to ensure that there's some level of stability returns back into the Ghanaian economy. Let's now move over to Wall Street and see what the picture is looking like. Now, for the Dow Jones Industrial Average, we're seeing a surge of 0.10%. And for the S&P 500, a negative close of 0.12%. And for the tech-heavy Nasdaq Composite there, 0.18% lower at 11,461.50. So we have more of reds and one green here for the United States. And markets, of course, investors are awaiting economic data ahead of the Federal Reserve Monetary Policy meeting for the month of December. That's the last meeting for the year. Now going over to Europe, European markets also are open. There's a tepid open for these markets, from the FTSE 100 in the UK to the CAC 40 in France, the DAX in Germany. So we have the CAC 40 and the DAX both finished finishing in negative zone there. But the FTSE 100 in the UK up marginally 0.01% there. In Asia Pacific region, China has relaxed now its issues around COVID-19, relaxed virus testing rules in some cities, signaling more easing may come in China around the COVID-19 policy issues. The Nikkei 225 in Japan is up 0.15%. In mainland China, the Shanghai Composite climbed 1.76%. But however, the story is not the same for the Kospi in South Korea. The South Korean Kospi is down 0.62% to settle at 2,419.32. Now going over to the commodities chart. Now oil prices are climbing up 0.83%. They're at $86.40 per barrel. Now, we saw the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC Plus, agreed on Sunday to stick to their October plan to cut output by 2 million barrels per day from November through the year 2023. Hence, we are seeing that give some kind of steam to the oil market. There's also issues around the price cap for Russian oil. That has been some of the major focus for investors in this trade. For the bullion, the yellow metal gold is up 0.21% there, $1,801 per ounce. So we have more grains here for these commodities that we monitor for you on the program. However, the only red on this chart is from wheat. It's down 2.04% at $743.25 per metric ton. So there are a lot of greens here and just one red. So the markets largely is really focusing on what's going to happen, what will be the body language of the US Fed. That's really one of the key focus for the market. That's going to be like a catalyst that markets and investors will be looking out. Let's look at the crypto watch and see what's happening with cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin, $70,331, up 1.24%. Ethereum, $1,122.90. And the Binance coin, $296 there. We have both Ethereum and the Binance coin in negative zone. Now, we saw news coming in, of course, talking about taxes that will be placed on cryptocurrency, the 2022 finance bill in Nigeria. Now, not just cryptocurrencies, digital assets. Remember, the country is trying to rake in more revenue. So the finance bill is looking at ways that more monies can be made outside the oil sector. Now, I have my guest in the studio. This is Dr. Emeka Okengu, a foremost economic analyst. Doctor, I want you to speak to the issue of what we are seeing happening with Ghana. Now, there's been a lot of talks as to what are the lessons for other countries in West Africa. What are the lessons that countries should take from this issue with Ghana? What's performing currency in the world, trying to renegotiate a deal with IMF, $3 billion. Let's hear your thoughts in 1 minute.
Well, I mean, you look at it from the positive and the negatives, okay? And it both has both. But what's important is look at the foundation upon which Ghana is negotiating. It's negotiating from a foundation of strength, as it may, because I built a foundation that are going to be climbing out of or climbing on top. So for Ghana, it's not a nay all the way. Yes, there's some nays. There could have been some policies not well thought through that could have been influenced by the global economic meltdown, but you can see them bringing gold to the table. And they're bringing gold to the table because Ghana earlier enough was able to attract exploration funding into the gold sector. And trust me, I don't think Ghana, we might be able to compete favorably with the volume of gold that Ghana has. But we're not able to bring our gold to the table because we've not gotten to that point where we can put institute reserves or institute numbers against our gold resources. So that Ghana can now, against their gold, begin to now play at oil, and even against that begin to negotiate with the IMF. So it's not the lessons to learn for me is that African countries must first and foremost focus on that comparative advantage we have, which is our resources. Make certain that you have proper information and data on them, and then we can begin to now use them to hedge out or wage the headwinds as they come.
Okay, we'll get to Dr. Okengo later on in the program also to hear his thoughts on the state of the Nigerian economy. However, let's bring you up to speed with some business stories in the business roundup. The number of active telecommunications subscribers hit 214.35 million in the month of October, according to new industry statistics from the Nigerian Communications Commission. This is the highest number of recorded telecom subscribers in the nation since the total number of subscribers peaked at 207.58 million in October 2020, months before the SIM-NIN linkage. Now going to the automotive sector now, the Director General of the National Automotive Design and Development Council, Jelani Aliyu, has reiterated the need for Africa to embrace electric vehicles, saying that the continent cannot advance at a fast pace using fossil fuel alone. Aliyu stated this while delivering a speech on why e-mobility is necessary for Africa during the ongoing London Electric Vehicle Show in Britain. He called for advanced decentralized industrialization on the African continent, while adding that a number of African countries and governments have started developing electric vehicles policies that would determine how best to promote the sector. Now, like I mentioned earlier on, our focus on the program today is on the state of economy of the Nigerian economy. Now, this is the month of December, looking at the Nigerian economy, especially in retrospect. How far has the economy fared? The Minister of Finance gave a scorecard of the Nigerian economy, talking about issues around revenue generation from the non-oil sector, what the economic managers are doing basically to bolster the Nigerian economy. Dr. Emeka Okengo is in the studio with me already. We'll be speaking to these developments. I'll hold my horses and take a short break. When we return, the program will continue. Please stay with us.
Now, as part of efforts to support Africa's goal of strengthening...
Now, looking at the activity chart, as you can see right here, a total volume of 130...
Created a Boko Haram crisis that at that time was restricted to Yobe.
How secured are they? You can see security men with blood.
This is the road leading up to the...
Already, if you look at England's squad, you are looking at EPL, you are looking at their names. You are not looking at...
Welcome back to the program, and thank you for still staying there with us. If you're just joining in, this is Business Daily, coming to you live from Trust Television. I have my guest still here with me, Dr. Emeka Okengo, and we are speaking on the state of the Nigerian economy. Now, juxtaposing, looking at issues, especially from the scorecard released by the Minister of Finance, talking about issues around revenue mobilization, how to get the Nigerian economy on the right path, money released for capital expenditure, and all of that. That will be the focus on the program today. Now, almost 12 months down the line, how far so far for the Nigerian economy? Doctor, just a moment ago when you were speaking on issues around Ghana, you spoke about foundations. Now, you spoke about the fact that it is important to put a foundation that something can stand on. I want you to speak on the economic foundation of Nigeria.
Very faulty, a lot of fault lines, a lot of red lines. A lot of unnecessary, if you may, push and pull. I'll start with the Finance Act that got the Revenue Mobilization Allocation Fiscal Commission taking the FIRS to court, okay, to be able to interpret the provisions of the Finance Act. Now, you also talk about the fiscal policies and the monetary policies, and then when you have those who are supposed to be managing your fiscal policies, and we came out here, and then the minister had said, I'm not even aware that something like this is on. It simply means that there is, even if you're not going to be sharing that information officially, there must be, some kind of back chat where there's a synergy of thoughts. Okay, so now these things created a lot of, if you may, landmines, if you may, quicksands, if you may, a lot of missteps. So if you look at it from that perspective, everybody now taking it from his own. I see in the year in review, we saw Nigeria as the elephant, and then you had, blind men giving their own classifications or definitions depending on where they were in that comfort zone around the elephant. I didn't see any policy that brought everybody that built synergies. Now, this is at the federal level. Then you come down to the subnationals, okay? As much as, yes, the president had pushed for local government autonomy, you also didn't see that happen, in real time, okay? I didn't see an alignment, even, where the concurrent met, the exclusive, where there were common shared, programs that everybody bought into, vis-a-vis something as central as agriculture, knowing fully well that the land is being held by the states. Now the policy is being, developed by the federal government, and then you develop this policy and then you sell it to the states. Okay, this is where the link begins. Instead of now saying, let us come together in a round table and then be able to think this thing through. And then that way, states would have been evolving policies in line with that central decision that was taken. So for me, it's a lot of mixed bag.
That's looking at the economic foundation. Now, Doctor, a lot of things to take away from your response to the question on the economic foundation. However, one thing that really struck me is the issue around the alignment between the monetary and the fiscal policies. Because take, for instance, we saw the monetary policy had its last meeting for the year 2022. We are seeing a moderate hike now coming in for the rates from the NPR now. And a lot of experts that I've equally spoken to on this program have said the missing link is in the alignment between the monetary and the fiscal arm of government, because the CBN is trying to rein in inflation and all of that. And the fiscal arm, do you think there's been a lot of support, basically synergy?
No, that's what I'm saying. I mean, because we should have been, the people that should have been put on the spot would have been the Revenue Mobilization Allocation Fiscal Commission. They would have been this link. Okay, they would have been the link, because if you look at their act, first and foremost, the act allows them, to probably to question anybody, go to anywhere and can collect information or data, and then be able to now develop advisories. Okay, that should have now formed the basis of whatever interface or interactions that would have been happening between the physical and the monetary, sides of our governance. But you didn't see that happen. Okay, for you to now see at one time, okay, look at today, the FIRS, is now the one funding, the FAC, to the extent that over 59% of what is spent in FAC is actually from the FIRS. Okay, as against, it being from the NNPC.
True.
And then you now have the NNPC now saying, you see what, these debts that NNPC, was owing is not being owed by NNPC Limited. Do you understand what I'm saying? And then at the last count, if you are to believe, reports, the CBN is now saying that NNPC is now remitting,
Thank you for mentioning that, because I was going to come to that, Doctor. We saw the CBN governor at the Bankers Committee meeting say, we moved from $3 billion to $0. How do we assess that situation?
Well, that's what I'm saying. This is not the failure of those who should be able to sit around. There's no forecasting. Because if they're aware, it's a failure, again, of projections. It's a failure of analysis. It's a failure of thinking things through. Because this shouldn't have come as a shock. Because you're able to now juxtapose, expectations against, realities. Okay? But it seems that this just flew out of the sky, and then the people say to you, this is how it is. And against this, also claims of, recharge card being bought for billions, pipelines being maintained for billions, and all that. So it simply shows that what I think we were doing was that everybody had his own track, and they were taking off in whatever direction that they wanted to. Okay? It was just the whistle had been blown, and everybody took off in different directions. So it wasn't a relay, as it were. Okay, it was a race into nowhere. So I think that was what created actually this faulty foundation, this shaky foundation. And then if you begin to interrogate whatever it is that you say now, okay, again, let me even preempt you again. Minister of Finance says, oh, I keep insisting that we don't have, a debt problem. We have a revenue problem. Why wouldn't you have a debt problem when you are spending over 118% of your revenue to service debt? Yes. How does that sit? Do you understand what I'm saying? How does that sit? You're not even spending it to pay debt. Okay, you're spending it to service debt. So these are all the issues I think that has made discussing the year in review in positives, a very difficult, because it's very, very difficult for you to say, okay, based on this, I'm going to be landing on this answer, based on this, because the moment you interrogate data, okay, that's been released from one agency against the other agency, you find a lot of fault lines.
Doctor, you just mentioned that the law empowers the RMAFC now
Yes.
to go in and ask these questions.
Yes.
What then is the impeding factor?
The impeding factor, I think, is also, I have this friend of mine that says, I became chairman and they tied my hands. Okay? Now, it's one thing for you to ask, it's another thing for you to enforce or insist. Okay? If a law that gives them that power to act does not also give them that power, okay, to be able to take, punitive or preemptive or enforcement actions, and I don't think that's the case. Okay, so I think that's what the major limitation is, okay, in that agency being able to, function fully. But however, that also does not, stop them from at least attempting, okay, trying to say, okay, this is what it is we've tried to do. Because you cannot, be allocating resources. It's your role to be able to look at what our income streams are.
Yes.
And we are looking at statistics that say that about 150-something million Nigerians out of, the 218 or 214 million we are living in multiple dimensional, poverty. Okay, so it simply means our own poverty is on all fronts. Okay, food poverty, education poverty, health poverty, transport poverty, social security poverty, and then you are looking at, not realigning, the remunerations of, you still have people earning in millions by the end of the day. That doesn't sit well at all. Okay, now this again is also the failure of not aligning, facts and data. Okay, because truly it's also possible that those who ban this data could just convert it into social media, rhetoric. But if you had the hard facts, okay, to be able to show to the people who are earning these, very fat salaries, about there are even agencies whose take-homes, or by the time they are leaving office, what they're going to be getting, as their severance packages are 1 million times, higher than what the president of the country is getting. So it's important that we look at the socio-economic realities on ground now, and then begin to now just not only form those alliances, begin to create new thought lines on how we can be able to manage what it is you have.
Doctor, as we wrap up the program now, you have rightly established that there's really so many negatives in this story.
Yes.
How then can we firm up this foundation again?
First, I think the president has to call, there has to be a meeting chaired by him. He has to read the Royal Act. He has to call everybody to order, because ultimately, whatever actions they are taking, everybody is taking fiscal, monetary, M&E, oversights, okay, recommendations, is at the behest of the president. He is the man who is wearing the shoes. So I think it's for him, to call everybody to the table and say, listen, I want to know what's going on here. Okay, I don't know why everybody is speaking from all sides of their mouth, and I want you people to now speak to what the issues are. And the issue is that our people are poor. Okay, if my people are poor and are promised to pull 100 million people out of poverty and I'm seeing statistics of 153 million people, and more probably getting in there by the end of the year, because next year is going to be worse if we are not getting the NNPC to be funding FAC. There won't be any money to share, and the states are not able to meet the obligations. In the past, unfortunately, all the monies had been used mostly for recurrent expenditure. There has not been any alignment between the federal infrastructure, and state infrastructure that can be able to now, actually build what we can really call, our sub-economy. Okay, so this is what the president has to do.
Okay. So it's time to get everyone on their toes.
It is time for the president to take charge and fully take charge.
Doctor, I just want to, before I let you go, in 10 seconds, which macroeconomic indices do you think did well?
None.
None, no macroeconomic indices worked for you in probably the last 12 months?
None. So tell me which. Did you create jobs? Did we improve our health?
Are there any positives in this picture for you?
Yes, we're Nigerians and we're very positive people. We'll get through this.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Emeka Okengu. Thank you for coming on the program to share your thoughts on basically how to get the Nigerian economy better. Like you said, it is important at this point to see how the 133 million Nigerians in multidimensional poverty can be lifted and have better standards of living. Thank you for investing your time with us on the program. Remember, you can catch up on this program and other major programs and news making the rounds in the polity on our social media platforms. Trust us to give you all the news you need as they break. Go to our social media, subscribe to our YouTube channel, just punch on the button and the information will be at your fingertip. I am your host, Christiana Amodu Otinya. Thank you for joining in and continue to stay safe.